Did you catch this? A U.S. Senator just accused the Secretary of Defense of turning the Pentagon into a dysfunctional mess, and then asked a question that left the room dead silent.
Secretary Hegseth, you've had a tough start. At your confirmation hearing, my Democratic colleagues and I rightly questioned whether you had the requisite qualifications and experience to lead the DoD, the largest federal agency, especially given your checkered past, which included paying $50,000 in hush money to settle a sexual assault allegation against you and driving 2 veterans organizations into the ground. After only months on the job, our concerns about you have proven true, as far as I'm concerned. Instead of strengthening national security, you've turned the Pentagon into a dysfunctional mess. You are jeopardizing military operations and service members' lives with your unprecedented action of texting classified military plans to anyone who might stroke your ego. Leading the Department of Defense is more than just a PR campaign filled with photo ops. While you pose for cameras, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine continues unabated. Israel and Iran are also at war, in large part because your boss tore up a multilateral agreement former President Obama brokered with the UK, France, Germany, China, and Russia that curbed Iran's nuclear program and ambitions. Meanwhile, China advances in the Pacific as this regime undermines and attacks our allies. At a time when steady leadership is critical, we are confronted with crisis and instability. Mr. Secretary, close to 5,000 Marines and National Guards have been deployed to LA without the request or consent of the California governor or the Los Angeles mayor, Bass. Rather than calming the situation, this troop deployment is purposefully inflaming and escalates tensions. You claim lethality is your top priority. Do you plan to unleash this lethal force against U.S. citizens and civilians in LA and other cities?
Well, Senator, I would reject most of the characterization of that statement, including lethality against U.S. cities, when all of those National Guardsmen and Marines have conducted themselves with the utmost of professionalism, defending our federal agents, Americans, who deserve to be able to do their job to deport illegal immigrants after the previous administration allowed 21 million illegals to cross our border.
I am not here to listen to rhetorical responses. I would like to have a professional response that I would expect from somebody who is the Secretary of Defense. Millions of people peacefully demonstrated this weekend against the president acting like a king. Given this regime's dangerous policy of mobilizing troops inside the U.S., the politicizing of the military is a legitimate concern. So, given the dangerous policy of mobilizing troops inside the U.S., if ordered by the president, I'm going to ask you once again, to shoot peaceful protesters in the legs, would you carry out such an order from the president?
Senator, as I've said before, of course, I reject the premise of your question and the characterization that I would be given or are given unlawful orders. It's all meant to attempt to smear the commander-in-chief, and I won't fall for it.
Considering that the president in his first term actually ordered such a thing, it is not a premise that you can reject. He can order it, do the same thing. So you're, again, I think you would just follow what the president wants you to do. Let's face it is not normal to call up our troops in this way, and there is active litigation against this deployment. Will you follow a court's order regarding whether or not this deployment is legal? If the court says this deployment of troops into our cities is not legal, would you follow that court's order?
It's pending in the courts, Senator.
Well, when the court decides, would you follow that court's order, decision?
I don't believe district courts should be determining national security policy.
So you will not be following that.
When it goes to the Supreme Court, we'll see.
Court. And unless the president decides to appeal, there you have it. So I take it that you don't consider district court decisions to be legitimate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What we just witnessed from Mazie Hirono wasn't political theater. It was accountability, sharp and overdue. She didn't dance around an issue or hide behind pleasantries. She laid out a devastating case that Pete Hegseth is not just unfit for the job, but actively dangerous in it. From unresolved ethical scandals to the reckless handling of sensitive military information, Hirono made one thing unmistakably clear. Leadership at the Pentagon has been reduced to ego, optics, and chaos. And when the conversation turned to the unprecedented deployment of Marines and National Guard troops into Los Angeles without the consent of state or city leaders, the stakes exploded. This wasn't about border policy or partisan spin. This was about the militarization of domestic politics. Hirono forced the question Americans are already asking quietly. When you normalize troops in U.S. cities, when you blur the line between national defense and political intimidation, what happens when peaceful protest becomes inconvenient to power? Hegseth's responses told their own story. He dodged, he deflected, and when pressed on whether he would obey a court order declaring the deployment illegal, he all but dismissed the authority of lower courts altogether. That moment should chill anyone who believes in constitutional balance, because when civilian control of the military starts answering only to one man instead of the rule of law, democracy isn't being defended, it's being tested. This exchange wasn't about hypotheticals. We've already seen a president flirt openly with violence against protesters. We've already seen institutions strained, norms shredded, and accountability treated as an inconvenience. Hirono wasn't being dramatic, she was being responsible. She was drawing a bright line and asking whether this administration still recognizes it. And here's the truth. If we normalize this, if we shrug it off as just another hearing, we give permission for the military to be politicized, for dissent to be treated as a threat, and for power to go unchecked. That's not strength. That's authoritarian drift. If you care about democracy, civilian rule, and the idea that no one, not even a president, is above the law, then you need to watch this full exchange, understand what's really happening, and speak up. Share this, stay informed, and don't let silence become consent.